Pretty Purposeful Podcast. I'm your host, Angee Mélange.
And I'm your co-host, Candace.
We're going to actually be diving into a topic that we hear a lot about these days, but not so much when it comes to family and friends. And that topic is diversity and inclusion and allyship. We've seen the power of allyship in the workplace and how that can really help people feel seen, heard, and included. But today we want to talk about how this can show up in families. We're all unique. We all are different. And sometimes we just all need somebody to see us and speak up on our behalf and support us. So we're going to talk about that topic today. But before we get into our topic, as always, I got to check in with my sister, my partner in purpose, Miss Candace. What you been up to?
I'm sitting down.
You sitting down?
I'm sitting down. It's time to rest.
Yeah.
It's time to decompress because I am literally focused on, let me tell you, I am focusing on really setting strategic financial goals for myself. Okay. I want to have my student loans paid off very soon.
I love that. I love that, girl. I'm with you. I definitely have to come up with a very targeted, aggressive plan to pay off because, Joe Biden, let me just say he tries. I have to say the First Lady probably has convinced him, and shout out to the First Lady, Jill. We love you. Continue to be in his ear about the student loans, ma'am. Please. Yes. That is really awesome, and I'm glad to hear that. And we definitely have been working really, really hard trying to manage, the podcast, our work lives, our family lives. Speaking of which, my daughter is officially done.
Michaela Angelie McMillan, honor graduate. Georgia Angelica Medina.
She has crossed the finish line of her high school days, and I'm so proud of her.
Michaela! What I'm talking about.
Yes, so this is a beautiful time in our lives right now. It truly, truly is, and we feel so blessed. Looking forward to sending her off to the summer program that they have at UGA, so she can, get to know the campus and get to know the staff and, just really acclimate to the environment. And I think any parent that, has an opportunity to send their kids to a summer program to the school they'll be going to, I highly encourage it, because what better way to get them, get their foot off to a good start than to give them that experience.
Right.
So looking forward to that.
Oh, congrats, Michaela. We proud of you, honey.
Yay. And then can you believe we are here at episode 8?
8.
We are on episode 8. Okay, you guys, we are winding down to the end of season 2 of Pretty Purposeful Podcast. And what I feel really was a real rebirth of the Pretty Purposeful Podcast in general. And I love it. I think evolution is great. And I'm a little speechless right now because just thinking about how much we've accomplished and looking forward to the next season. One thing that I can say about us that I'm proud of is that week after week, we strive to make improvements.
That's right.
We try to streamline our processes on the back end. It's just us two. Let me take that back.
Baby girl.
My daughter does assist us with audio. She assists us. Really, she is that assistant that we need on deck. And I'm so grateful. So thank you, Ma. Appreciate you, baby girl. But we do a lot. We wear a lot of hats. And we're excited for the next season because we'll have time to really be strategic about how we want to approach next season. And so we hope that you all will join us next season. We do intend on having guests. So we're going to take a break after season 2 to reflect, to regroup, and to come back together. Yeah, better than even season 2. So I'm excited about that.
Me too.
And we deserve a break, and we look forward to celebrating
our successes.
This was amazing. So yes, you guys, only 2 more episodes left. Let us know how you guys have enjoyed this season. Please, we really encourage you to leave us your feedback. Hey, if you like it, if you don't like it, good, bad, and different. We want to know your thoughts about the season. What can we do to make this good for you? I mean, what can we do to make this podcast? How can we add more value for you?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's why we're in it.
Hey, we want everybody to feel seen and heard, and we're open to all kind of topics. We started out literally the topics that we chose. We've been very purposeful in deciding what topics to do, ones that resonate with us individually and those that resonate with the communities that we are from. We are from a marginalized community, and so it's important that we use our platform to raise awareness about the issues that impact us every day, the things that have attributed to generational trauma. And we're all about wellness. And, part of the Pretty Purposeful Podcast's mission is to help people to get on a path of healing and to, be on their path of purposeful living. So we hope that this has helped you on your healing journey, and that you found some value along the way. Right, so Miss Candace, let's go ahead and get into this episode.
Let's get into it.
All right, so the topic that we're discussing today, again, is diversity. I put inclusion in there. I'm going to say diversity, inclusion, and allyship. Mm-hmm. And we hear about that a lot in the workplace. We also hear about that a lot in society, and how important it is for marginalized communities to have the support of those who have the advantage. So today, I wanted us to dive into how that shows up in our families, because within families, you have differences. Yep. And sometimes those differences can get in the way of healthy relationships. Right. So have you ever encountered a situation within your family where you have felt excluded, judged based on your differences?
I will say there was a point in time where I started to question my beliefs, my faith. And I always grew up in the church. I always grew up under the umbrella of the Christian faith, yes. Right? And I guess I'll have to use this example from church, and many of us experience church hurt. And I was very honest with a minister that I was confiding in, and I told her, I was like, hey, I was friends with this particular guy. He shared some of his honest opinions about religions and stuff, and it had me thinking. And I was sharing this with her, and she immediately, I did feel a bit judged. And let me tell you why. Because she immediately said, so are you telling me you're lost? Wow. I felt excluded. I felt different. I felt judged. Absolutely. And because she used the terminology lost, it almost seemed as if you probably shouldn't be in my you probably shouldn't even be near me, or I know she didn't mean it like that, right. But the tone, and she's like, are you telling me you lost? And I'm like, no. Did it steer me away from going to church? I still go, not as often though. I still respect her. I still love her because I know she wants the best for me, but by her saying that, it did kind of rub me the wrong way, because I'm over here like, so I'm lost now? No, I'm not lost. I still believe in God. I believe in Jesus. I believe in everything that the Bible says, because there's so much wisdom in that book. I just was being authentic and expressing
you were being vulnerable.
Yeah, I was being vulnerable.
You thought it was a safe space.
Exactly. And for her to say that, it was like, okay, let me just go somewhere else and express how I feel. Like I even mentioned, I mentioned my, I guess, skepticism to you. And you didn't dare call me lost. You literally listened. Your full attention was given to me. It was like, I get it. Yeah. This has been my experiences. This is what I believe in. And the love did not change. So I appreciate you for not making me feel like I was lost.
No. that, and you said she was, what is she now? She was a minister?
She was a minister. Is a minister.
Is a minister. Yeah, that could be difficult. And this is what I have to say about our beliefs, is that we still can pray for those individuals, you know, who have that approach, because nobody's perfect. Even if you have the you know, the knowledge, the wisdom of the Bible and know it inside and out, you are not perfect. You still have errors in your human ways. And so that the way that she handled that was not the Christ-like way to handle it. So yeah, I would have prayed for her instantly, literally, immediately. If you know, and I've been in similar situations. I heard certain statements in my life where it was made to seem like once you're saved, you're sin free. Like you can never sin again. And it's like, that's not realistic. Like, you have thoughts that, you know, you have to work through and address and heal from. Even if you're praying to God and ask you to heal from past traumas, some of the past traumas, you get triggered, and you may have a thought that it's not of God. It's not a godly thought, but it's because you were triggered. So I say all that to say that, you know, we do just continue to give people grace, the same grace that we want. But yeah, I'm sorry that you had that experience, but I know what that feels like. So no, thank you so much for sharing that. I definitely have experienced feeling excluded and judged in my family. And you guys, I always say this, I've said this on multiple episodes about my, you know, mixed identity. It is something that I had struggled with majority of my life. And so I think that within my family, there's still not really any common ground when it comes to what it means to be mixed. And I have cousins who have the same genealogical makeup as I do, who view themselves as, like, I have one cousin who's Puerto Rican and Black, and he wants to be seen as Puerto Rican. He wants to be accepted by the Hispanic community. He speaks Spanish fluently. He appears more, you know, he's light complected like me, but he's heavy on that Boricua, you know, you know. And hey, listen, you are Puerto Rican. We are. But then we have some relatives who don't carry the Gonzalez last name because maybe they have their dad's last name, who still are Puerto Rican and Black, but they can pass for Black because they don't have the Hispanic last name, and they may be more melanated. So even though I have first cousins whose parents have the same amount of Puerto Rican blood, we got the same Puerto Rican grandfather, rest his soul, we all have differing views of how we identify. So when you say, have I ever felt excluded, it's like, that's a very challenging dynamic within that side of my family, because it's like, have any of us ever really felt included? Have we ever really addressed our identity issues as a collective and discussed it? And the answer is no. And I think that that's an issue. Then on my mom's side, with me being the cousin that has the Hispanic last name and the mixed identity, I felt like, heck, many a times, really starting with my own sister when I was, you know, a kid, being told that I was adopted because I had a different last name. I was light skinned, had longer hair. Yeah, I was told that I was adopted. So then in our family, as we got older, we would go to family events, everybody knew that I had, you know, a Puerto Rican dad, or at least he was mixed, you know, they knew my last name. And I just never really felt included. I always felt like I was the outsider, like the other. It's so much that we had a family trip a few years back. It was supposed to be like a family reunion, you know, family trip to Jamaica. And I went to Jamaica, and I had an opportunity to stay at a resort with my mom's siblings. And I should have stayed at the resort with my mom's siblings. But instead, I opted to stay at a cheaper resort because that's where all the fun was going to be. So I chose to stay with these cousins who, they were older. I respected them just off top because they were older. I looked up to them.
Yeah.
So I felt safe. I thought I was safe. Girl, we in a whole nother country, and these women turned on me and basically ostracized me in Jamaica because the dudes down there were on me. That's the one thing that I noticed, the attention that I was getting, because I never did anything to them personally. I never did anything.
So why else would y'all be feeling salty?
So imagine, I had my daughter with me at the time too. You know, my one cousin had her kids there. And I literally, for the last like couple days of that trip, me and my daughter just kind of did our own little solo thing. But just get this is how nice I am. One of the cousins who was treat me bad, I ended up paying for her taxi to the airport. I still to this day don't understand why I was even asked after the way I was treated. But because of the kind heart that I have, I mean, this is a woman who is older than me, who you shouldn't have been in another country if you couldn't afford a taxi to the airport. And I don't normally, when I do things for people, I don't do them to repeat that I did them. I'm saying this to say that amidst them, you know, treating me like crap, I still had a heart, and they still came to me.
Yep.
Seeking out my resources.
Right.
So that really did scar me, you know, and I forgive them, but I did not feel safe. And there was another cousin there who I had just met for the first time. She was about my age. So we had two older cousins and then the one who was my age. Now, mind you, I'm the lightest one there. Literally, it's a spectrum of browns, and I'm yellow, okay? Then we got a cousin who's like golden yellow. Then we got a cousin who's like mocha color, and then we got a cousin who's nice chocolate. We all are blood cousins. Only they can say why they treated me the way that they did, but I just know it was very eerily similar to how I was treated in the workplace or how I had been treated in school growing up, just for showing up and being light-skinned. And this is my own family. So yeah, that was a time where I felt like I really wish I had an ally. And to the point that when the family members that stayed at the other resort came down to our resort for dinner, like one of the last nights that we were there, we had agreed that, you know, this will be the day that we do a family day. They came down, and I was late to dinner. And I know my mama's siblings was like, what's up with Angee? Why is she late? But there was a reason, because I was not psychologically safe. I was in my room dreading going to this dinner.
You wasn't feeling it.
Because I didn't want to put that stress on my mama's siblings. I didn't want to put it on my aunts. I didn't want to bring them into the drama. We're in Jamaica supposed to be having a good time. So that was a wake-up call for me. And I couldn't believe it. So yeah, that's when I realized that, like, well, actually, that wasn't the moment I realized that allyship is important in families, but that is definitely an example of why allyship is necessary.
Thank you for sharing that.
So, yes, girl. To any of my cousins that don't see me for me, that's your loss. Anyway. So Candace, given that I just shared a story of how I've needed an ally, can you share a personal story where being an ally to someone else, either in your family or in your friend circle or in a close, you know, social circle, that you have had to help, and by helping them, it helped you grow and understand their different perspectives?
Yes. So I'm reminded of when I was at work, and there was she was my colleague. She had a very interesting personality, I'll say. A lot of people would say that she's mean, or she kind of gives off bullyish vibes. A lot of people didn't feel, I guess, safe around her. But I actually had the wonderful opportunity of pretty much breaking through that shell. She showed me such a kind-hearted, soft personality. Like, and I'm like, wait, who is this?
She had that hard shell to protect herself.
Yes. Wow. But she completely broke it down with me. And I'm like, you are not anything of how the first impression you gave off was. Like, so I had went to dinner with other colleagues, okay? And they were basically saying, this person, she's mean, she's a bully, she mind her own business, she don't really want to have no friends. And I'm like, wait a minute. I spoke with her.
Mm-hmm.
She's actually a super cool person, super down to earth, and a sweetheart. She is very loyal, will do anything for you if you get to know her. And one of my peers from the group, from my coworkers at the dinner, the next day ended up repeating, Candace actually vouched for you. We were all thinking that, you had a tough shell, you were mean, but Candace apparently seen a brighter side of you, right? And I think that helped her trust me even more. I think that helped our bond become even stronger because she saw that, wow, even when I'm not in the circle, Candace is speaking great things about me.
That part, wow, that is so important. And that is definitely the true definition of what an ally is. It is like having the best interest of that other person because you have leverage, you have the connection with the people, and maybe they don't, but you're like that bridge, right? That is amazing. Yeah, we need more of that. Mm-hmm. Instead, sometimes in workplaces and sometimes in family, instead of people taking that risk and trying to be that bridge, they try to play the fence, and that never works out.
No, because you end up losing trust.
Yes,
you
from
lose
both sides.
Both sides.
That definitely can keep toxic cycles going, and then especially when you talk about family, right? I've I said this before. I've heard a saying that there's relatives and then there's family.
Yeah.
Relatives are related to you by blood. You can choose who is family. Just the word family sounds so good and safe. Relative sounds so business and transactional.
Yep.
And sometimes that's what some of those relationships are like, very transactional. So like, yeah, at this stage in my life, I definitely have identified relatives and family. You are family, Candace. Aww. You are family. Yes. That's what I'm saying. Like, when we think about how people try to play the sides instead of bringing people together, I've witnessed where that individual in the middle feels like they're benefiting from both sides, and that's greed. That's very selfish when a person is playing the fence, because they literally are saying that I don't want to pick a side, nor do I want to leverage the trust I have here and the trust I have here to bridge this brokenness that exists. They have the power to be that person, to unify and be the peacemaker in the family. That's actually, I think, a person that has the ability to be trusted by, let's just say, most people in a certain family dynamic. That's a blessing. You have that position, that role comes with responsibility. That's how I don't want to say matriarchs or patriarchs, but typically that is that central person that's the glue in the family. That's because everybody can trust them. Everybody can lean on them. But imagine a person having that much influence and power, not power, but that much influence over their family, and allowing someone in the family to be shunned or excluded or treated unfairly, because if they say something, they are afraid that they're going to,
be excluded
themselves. There you go. Wow. That is, it really makes you think about it. Like, that is a very selfish act and that's the reason why we wanted to do this podcast, to just really raise awareness about it, to show you how it can show up in families, and how people who do have those, relationships with multiple people, and there's brokenness, how there is an opportunity for you to play a pivotal role in really the quality of your family relationships.
Right.
We hear all the time people talk about that family is dysfunctional, toxic family. But let's be real. There's some people out there that are playing both sides.
And that's the problem.
And they are the problem. They are a major part of the problem.
Isn't that an integrity thing? Like,
oh, yes. That's why I said usually it doesn't end well, because once people realize that, like, oh, I can't trust you.
Yeah.
You're not trustworthy.
Because can you really be a peacemaker? Oh, that's kind of tough though, because I be finding myself being like the peacemaker. And it's like I see the wrong on both sides and I give my opinion on both sides. But it's like I don't want them to feel like they can't trust me. Like, and I feel like I've also been in a situation where I'm like the secret holder. Like, they're coming to me in confidence. They're coming to me. I'm a safe space for people.
They're grieving. They're airing their grievances with you about other family members instead of going directly to the family member.
Yeah, with friends, really with friends.
Or friends, yeah.
Yes. And it's like one friend comes to me and it's like, yeah, I don't know why this person isn't talking to me. And I know why. But it's like I'm still trying to keep the trust with friend A.
Absolutely, which is honorable and the right thing to do.
And it's like I'm like, I know why, but I'm still trying to maintain like my integrity and not because she literally told me, can we please keep this between me and you?
Yeah.
So it can get sticky because it's like part of me feels like, dang, am I not being as loyal to friend B because I'm not being that straight up with her? But I guess it's like being a counselor.
If that is the scenario, then friend A is not truly the friend of friend B. And that's something that maybe they just need to agree that, you know, like I was telling you, Candace, because I would share in a situation like that. This is why I don't share friends. Okay. This is my friend. Anybody that knows me, I'm letting y'all know right now. She's my friend. You may meet her at some time in the future, but I don't anticipate trying to make her be friends with you. Okay, just saying, I'm gonna do that.
Crystal clear.
And I have no desire. No, let me quit. But I truly, I think that scenario could play out in a family too. It literally could. It can. It could be a situation where family member A and family member B just have so much of a history, right? So much of a history, yet they've never healed. It's kind of like swept under the rug. And it gets to a point where that is too much for that peacemaker or that mediator to resolve it. Like that's a lot of pressure to put on someone. So at some point though, I think the allyship comes in when if it's just unfair, if you have knowledge of the unfairness that's happening to one individual. But the situation that you're explaining is a very common scenario in friend circles and family. And I think in those situations, if you are that person that's the peacemaker that everybody comes to, you do have the influence of both of them. You have the trust of both of them. You have the ability to potentially calling together a meeting, a mediation, literally. Like, you know what? Y'all ain't gonna keep putting me in the middle.
Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it together. Let's talk about if y'all, it's just like agreeing to disagree.
You sound like me. You literally sound like me because I have told many of my friend circles, yeah, let's all just talk. Let's have a real honest conversation about how you feel and how she feels and how she feels about you. And let's just lay it all out. Let's be honest.
Yeah, because that's really the only way that you get past that and you don't keep repeating the cycle. And if it turns out that, you know what, friend A or family member A and friend B and family member B just is not going to work out, that's okay. You can still love somebody. Like, you know what, that it wasn't meant for us to have this type of a close, relationship.
And that's okay.
But I can still respect that person. That's just like I was saying with you, Candace. I know that you have other friends. And the fact that they are your friends and that they love on you, I'm going to automatically love and respect them because of the love and respect they have for you. But it doesn't mean that I have to be their people or they have to be my people. They're your people. I'm your people. And at the end of the day, we all love you. We all respect you and care for you. And to me, I think when you start to try to create these, because I mean, you want your friends, like I get it. Like I understand, because I went through that before where I would want to be with friend A, right? But then I also want friend B
to
join and experience whatever me and friend A are experiencing. And they would oblige, you know, a lot of times. But it always ended up being some drama, and I was in the middle, and it was tug of war. Like I'm more her friend, or I'm more like trying to show each other up. No. We're not doing that. Right. So I learned my lesson, because between that, it always, like I said, I end up being in the middle and almost forced to make a decision. And it's like, no, how did we get here? Literally. So yeah, I would just say same thing in the family, that you can, because you love both parties, you can definitely leverage your influence and your love for both of them to bring them together and say, look, y'all either do want to do this or you don't. There's no forcing, but I'm going to love you and I'm going to love you. Period. Yeah. So, yeah.
No, that was very well said, Angee.
Thank you.
I mean, that's the solution.
Yeah. Because we all adults, right? Mm-hmm. If we were children, that's what I'm like, with family relatives at this stage in life, there may be some unresolved issues. There may be some conversations that should have happened sooner, right? That have been put off. Some altogether, because they just want to avoid conflict. Yeah. But I think that those people who have the influence over both sides can absolutely intentionally and purposefully call a family meeting, call a friend meeting, because that is you giving them your genuine efforts to resolve this for all parties.
For everybody's sake.
You can at least walk away and say, I did my piece, I tried. Now, however y'all proceed from this point on, it's on y'all, you know.
What are some of the challenges you have personally faced when trying to find allies, and how did you overcome them?
First of all, let me just say the term ally and allyship is very common nowadays. But growing up, when I really needed an ally, I just needed a friend. Okay, I just needed a friend. I needed, someone who saw me for who I was and who would support me. And I did have that throughout my life. I have had people to show up for me on my behalf. I didn't know that they were called allies. To answer your question, I've never really sought an ally until recently. And that's, like I was saying before in one of the previous episodes, about how the unfair treatment that I've experienced at work led me to wanting to start an inclusion community for mixed race people. And in doing that, I was seeking allyship. That was me seeking allyship in the workplace. I used the resources that I had available to me. And even when I looked for an inclusion community and there wasn't one for me, I decided to create one. And that attracted the allies to me. So again, throughout my life, I never really sought allyship. If anything, it was allyship on behalf of the Black community, seeking allyship in terms of my white counterparts to support anything that was going on with the Black community. But again, that was my perspective as a Black woman. But nowadays that I realize that I have to fully own my whole identity, it's like, okay, now I need allyship for who I am as a mixed person. So yeah, and you said, what was the last part of that?
And how did you overcome them?
So I will say, though, I still haven't really gotten allyship within my family. And I'll be honest with you, at this age in my life and just how distant my family is, not just physically distant, because a lot of us live in different states, but just the amount of distance that has grown over the years. Just the dynamic. The dynamic is a very unique one. It's to the point where it really might, I would say on my dad's side, my grandma passed away in 2018. She was the glue. She was the matriarch that kept the family together. So on that side, since she's passed away, there's been some distance, that has grown. Wow. And then on my mother's side, as I was saying before, my mom was one of 15 siblings, and most of her siblings have passed away, so there's only 3 of those left in, that family. And so, yeah, their children, I mean, I am close to my first cousin who's here in Atlanta with me, who is also a mixed individual. So I've sought allyship by creating the survey, the mixed race survey. That's how I've sought allyship.
Yes.
Yeah. After the wrongful termination, and after I had my coming to Jesus moment and realizing who I was, I created a mixed race survey, not just for mixed people, but for anyone, to really gain a better understanding of how people perceive the mixed race experience,
right,
to help me help others. So I'm still currently collecting data, and we're going to provide the link below to the survey, but that's how I'm seeking allyship in society. So I've been successful in the workplace. I'm actively working towards success in society for not just my own allyship, for the allyship of others who can relate to being, mixed race.
Yes.
And then within my family, that's the part that's difficult. That's the reason why this conversation, that, this topic even came up, because I said, there are people with the growing population of mixed race people. There are many families that are going to require allyship for those little mixed kids that are being born every day, that belong to both a Black family and they belong to a white family, or they belong to an Asian family and a Hispanic family, or whatever. Those little children are going to require some allyship within their own families, and sometimes within their own households. Mm-hmm. Because if you have a Black and white, couple, maybe the Black spouse has children who are all Black.
Right.
Now they have a half and half sibling.
Yep.
Who's going to be the ally for them?
For that baby.
And so this conversation is very, very necessary. And the same goes for those families that have members who are part of the LGBTQ community. They are afraid to come out with their sexual identity because they don't have allyship, or they're people who have come out and don't have allyship. Another example is a person that has a disability. There's a variety of different disabilities that can cause people to feel excluded, and it could be physical, it could be something that someone was born with, or it could be something that happened just in life. So think about that in your family. Think about that if you have any family members that are often othered or excluded or purposely just left out. If you have a relationship with them, you have the ability to speak up on their behalf, to one, understand how that makes them feel, and then 2, do something about it.
Right.
But we all have the ability. There will come a day, there will come a time where you do have the opportunity to speak up for someone in the family who may not be respected, or who may not have that influence or that likability.
Okay. Yeah.
They don't have the likability.
That's good.
You may have the ability to speak up and be the voice for them.
Right.
It kind of like the situation you were talking about, Candace, about the work situation, how that individual young lady had this hard exterior put up because
she was hard
to protect herself. But people who don't have boundaries sometimes can view people with boundaries as being
mean,
because they can't get over on them. I said what I said. People who don't have boundaries have a problem with people who do have boundaries, and sometimes will try to paint them out to be mean, or think they're better, or they other them, because they are not willing to do what it takes to be able to interact or engage with them, because that person has standards and has boundaries. They're not going to let you walk all over them. Yes, girl. Come on.
Get you some boundaries, boo. Okay. And I was listening to an interview with Cindy Trim, and she said, she said with the most serious face, I do not lend money to friends or family. I'm not a bank.
That's right.
She said that with the most straight face. And I can understand, like me, probably 5 years ago, I would have probably been like, but they're your friends.
Yeah.
They're your family. Why won't you?
Right.
Why wouldn't you? Oh, but Candace now, oh, I get it.
Right. And when you had that perspective of, but that's your family, it was because you were doing it, right? So it kind of her
With
experience.
friends.
Yes.
Yeah, no, you right on. You spot on.
Wow.
There's truth in what you said.
Wow. No, but I can see that. It's just because it kind of reminds me of how when people say, that's your mother, that's your, sister, you should be talking to them. And it's like, but you haven't walked a mile in my shoes. You haven't even taken time to get to know why. Then when they go through something with their family member or whomever that is a loved one, and they have to distance themselves to protect their peace.
Now you understand.
Then they understand. Yeah. So that's why I give grace now where I'm at, because I've healed and everything, or healing. Let me just say I'm healing. I do give grace when I hear statements like that, because I understand it comes from an uninformed place. It comes from an uninformed place. Right. Yeah. Just so this question I'm going to ask, I would gear it more towards family, but I think it's just kind of like an all-encompassing kind of question. How do you think a person's generational trauma can affect their attitude towards diversity? And what role can allies play in help to heal that trauma?
All right, so first question, it can have a huge impact. So let's talk about different types of generational traumas. You have racial discriminations, you have economic hardships, substance abuses, substance or mental illnesses.
A whole crack era.
So when it comes to economic hardship, that whole generational trauma, generational poverty shapes attitudes towards education and work, fostering a sense of limitation.
You are looking at somebody who clearly understands that so much. This is why in season 1, I did an episode about marginalized voices, because I said that a huge area of opportunity for our community is learning to communicate effectively.
Bingo.
It was not valued. Education was not really valued. My mom was going to college while we living in the projects. Not many other of my friends' parents were going to college, right? But wow. I mean, that, I'm glad that data is out there and they understand. And that's part of allyship. Anybody that wants to be an ally for someone that comes from a generational poverty, or a marginalized community, or just if you want to be an ally, you have to first start to understand what the challenges are for that individual. What are the actual challenges that they're experiencing? What has their lived experience been like? I absolutely can agree with that. When they say break generational curse, I can honestly say I broke a generational curse, because it starts with the mindset. First the mindset and then the actions. So you first, you change, you shift. It's a paradigm shift that happens. And then after that, the actions that you take, will follow. So, wow, Candace. Listen, that's the episode right there, okay? No, literally, I hope that this is helping someone have a better understanding. Especially, we don't know at this point who's going to be watching this podcast. But if you're someone who comes from a marginalized community, or you have grown up disadvantaged, then what Candace is just saying, like, hopefully shed some light on why you may have thought the way you thought, why those cycles, can continue. And it is up to us, once we become informed and educated, it's up to us to shift the mind. There you go, and make the change. Like Mike said, make that change.
Make that change. Let's make the world a better place. But first, we have to be the change.
We got to start with ourselves. Absolutely.
Angee, have you ever felt excluded from diversity conversations because of your identity? And how did it impact your view of allyship?
Well, I have to say, within the last 2 to 3 years, I have had a full on revelation, epiphany. I went through a real identity crisis. The moment that I was, like I said, I don't mean to keep bringing this up, but the moment I was wrongfully terminated, that was one thing. Shortly thereafter, I started listening to different rooms on Clubhouse. Right. And I stepped into this room one day that was on Clubhouse, and they were talking about, the room was actually titled Cry Racial. Cry Racial. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm not biracial. I'm literally like a quarter Puerto Rican. Yeah. My dad was half and half. Right. But the topic was appealing to me because I'm like, well, I'm still in that community of being mixed. So let me hop in this room and hear what they're talking about. So I was listening. There were different perspectives. I didn't know that was I should have known by the title, Cry Racial, that it was like an anti or like a hate type of room. I didn't know. I just was interested to hear the perspectives and hear who was in there speaking up and sharing their lived experience. And so I gets in there and I didn't hear nobody really speaking up on behalf of mixed people. So I was like, well, I rose my hand and I got on the stage. I was the one time I only spoke on Clubhouse. I never spoke again after that day. But I got on stage and I basically shared my story authentically. Yes. You know, raised by a Black mom, dad mixed Puerto Rican and Black, raised in a Black family, Black community, Black church, Black this, Black that. Black is who I am, who I've always known myself to be. I don't know how to be, you know what I mean? Right. And I got tore down. Like, they were so nasty to me.
I was going to say that was nowhere near safe.
I was trying to share a perspective.
That was entertainment.
When that happened to me, Candace, that was when I really started to have this awakening about myself. And I'm thankful for it. I mean, it happened while I was, I'm in my early 40s. But for it to happen at this stage of my life, I'm grateful for it happening because I do have I have elders in my family who are also mixed, who may not have come to grips with their identity. So I'm just so thankful that I had those experiences, and it made me really look in the mirror and accept who I was. And not only accept who I was, but walk boldly and fearlessly in my truth. This is who I am. And I still love my Black community. I still love my Black family. I still am an ally for my Black community. And I would like to get to know the Puerto Rican side of me a little bit more too. I do. I do, that experience really made me realize, even with like when I was at the job where I was wrongfully terminated, the individual who, made comments about mixed people basically was saying she didn't feel that a mixed woman could speak on behalf of Black people. And I'm like, ma'am, that's what you call a freaking ally. Okay? That's a ally. I'm not half and half, but if I am half and half, can that half Black come and show and speak? Can that half Black represent when there's nobody else Black in the room? Can that not be valid and serve a purpose? Like, that is allyship. And we are expecting our white counterparts that don't have a drop of Black in them to be allies for us. But you won't allow a person that actually has Black in them to actually be an ally and speak confidently from their actual lived experience.
We still have a lot of Africans bleaching their skin. Like, that's the reality of the world we live in today.
And don't realize how beautiful their skin is. I do hope that we can get better. And because there's so many mixtures of races within families and within different communities, I'm hopeful that the parents of those children, when you have mixed kids, you have to immediately become an ally. Because your Black family is not going to be really accepting of your half and half kid, which means you have to advocate for the white family that you are now a part of and your kid is now a part of. And the Black parent is going to have to be an advocate for the Black side whenever they're with the white family. So yeah, I hope that you all, this was a pretty deep, episode, but it is all with the purpose of helping us become better. Just better at existing amongst one another and having a better understanding of others' experiences.
Right.
Yeah.
Period.
All right. Well, you know what? This conversation has really been one of the rawest conversations that we've had yet. I'm grateful that we can share this space to discuss such critical issues. And before we sign off, do you have any other closing thoughts?
My closing thoughts would be to not be so quick to judge your brother or your sister, because you might end up seeing that they are an ally of yours.
Absolutely.
You just never know.
Absolutely. And I will say, to add to that, something that I learned along this journey was that, and I didn't know before, was that, again, this is within the Black community, light-skinned people are not trusted. And I don't know if it's just the proximity of our skin tones to white people, but yeah, we have to stop thinking like that. Like, that is too general. Treat people as human beings first. Treat people the way you want to be treated. Color does not, just like India Ari says, does the way I wear my hair determine my integrity? It's like, I'm not my skin. Shout out to the sister India Ari, who I'm so thankful I got to meet earlier this year. I still can't believe it, but I want to use her lyrics to just enforce this message today that, yes, a skin color does not determine a person's integrity, trustworthiness, loyalty, none of that. Just be open, be receptive, be curious, stay curious, get to know that person who you think you know. You may have missed so many blessings because you have prejudged somebody based on their skin tone or their differences. Again, we really hope that you all have gained some value from this episode, that you learned something, and that you will definitely be more mindful as you interact with your family, your friends, and as you encounter people who, might be a little bit different than you. At the end of the day, we are all a part of the human race. So, as always, it is okay to be pretty,
but even better to be
pretty purposeful.